The Treaty of Versailles, signed after World War I, was a peace built on quicksand. It imposed punitive reparations, severe German disarmament, and the controversial war guilt clause, ultimately failing to end the war. This peace settlement did not lead to stability. Instead, the flaws and hard feelings created by the Treaty of Versailles led to a legacy of bitterness that would eventually cause an even more catastrophic conflict, World War II. After the immense conflict of World War I, the killing had stopped. Delegates from 32 countries met at the Palace of Versailles to answer a monumental question. How do you build a just and lasting peace after a generation has been decimated? American President Woodrow Wilson presented an idealist's vision with his 14 points. His plan centered on open diplomacy, free trade, reduced armies, self-determination, and a general association of nations to peacefully negotiate world conflicts. France's Georges Clemenceau, nicknamed the Tiger, had a realist's demand: national security. Having seen Germany invade France twice, his priority was stripping Germany of its power to ensure they could never start another war. After months of heated arguments among the Big Four, the Treaty of Versailles was signed on June 28, 1919. Critically, major decisions were made without representation from Germany, its allies, or Russia. The punishment deconstructed Germany's territory and military. Territorial losses included returning Alsace-Lorraine to France and surrendering all overseas colonies. Military restrictions severely limited the army size and prohibited building submarines or an air force. The harshest cut was the War Guilt Clause, Article 231. This article placed sole responsibility for the war on Germany's shoulders, forcing them to pay $33 billion in reparations over 30 years. The treaty created a new map for a new Europe. The Austro-Hungarian, Russian, and Ottoman empires were dismantled, resulting in the creation of many new nations and the redrawal of numerous borders across the continent. The Versailles Treaty created a global landscape of resentment. It alienated four key groups: the Germans, the colonized peoples, embittered victors like Italy and Japan, and the United States, creating an unstable foundation for the future. Consequence one was Germany's humiliation. The War Guilt Clause, reparations, and territorial losses left a lasting wound, creating a, quote, legacy of bitterness and hatred in the hearts of the German people. Consequence two was the betrayal of self-determination. People in former German and Ottoman territories had hoped for independence based on Wilson's points. Instead, the Allies carved up these territories into mandates controlled by Britain and France, continuing European colonialism. Consequence three involved the discontented victors. Japan and Italy felt cheated, having gained less territory than they desired. Furthermore, the United States, the dominant global power, ultimately rejected the treaty, choosing to stay out of European affairs. The peace was unenforceable, designed to be upheld by the League of Nations, which was fatally weakened from the start. Fatal flaws included lacking U.S. support, alienating major powers like Germany and Russia, and having no enforcement mechanism. The peace built on quicksand gave way, lacking broad support and leaving a legacy of bitterness. The settlements failed to solve the Great War's underlying conflicts, instead creating new grievances that contributed to the conditions for the next global war. From a historical perspective, Wilson promoted ideals like self-determination and the League of Nations. However, European allies, especially Britain and France, prioritized punishment and security over reconciliation, sidelining many of Wilson's ideals. The lasting impact today is that the tension between idealism and realpolitik still shapes international diplomacy, peace negotiations, and debates over whether peace is better achieved through punishment or cooperation. This video raises discussion questions, starting with: how did Woodrow Wilson's 14 points aim to create lasting peace, and why did their partial rejection help set the stage for World War II? Historically, Germany faced massive reparations, military restrictions, and economic hardship. These pressures fueled resentment, hyperinflation, and political radicalization during the Weimar Republic. The treaty remains a key example of how harsh post-war settlements can destabilize societies, influencing how modern peace agreements are designed after conflicts. Our second question is, In what ways did the Treaty of Versailles' demands on Germany contribute to political instability and the rise of extremism? Historically, the War Guilt Clause placed sole responsibility for the war on Germany. This deeply humiliating assignment of blame justified reparations and was viewed as unjust and politically toxic by many Germans. The lasting impact today highlights how assigning blame after conflicts can inflame nationalism and resentment. These lessons are relevant in post-war truth commissions and international accountability efforts. Question number 3. Why was the War Guilt Clause, Article 231, so controversial, and how does collective blame affect nations today? Historically, Germany lost land in Europe and all its colonies, while new nations were created with unstable borders. These changes often ignored ethnic and cultural realities on the ground. Many modern conflicts stem from borders drawn after World War I, particularly in Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, showing how territorial decisions can have century-long consequences. Our fourth question is, how did the loss of German territory in Europe and overseas reshape global borders and fuel future conflicts? Historically, the League of Nations was meant to prevent future wars but lacked enforcement power and U.S. participation, which ultimately limited its effectiveness. The failure of the League informed the structure of the United Nations, NATO, and other global institutions, shaping how the world now approaches collective security and conflict prevention. Finally, how did the failure to fully support the League of Nations influence today's international institutions like the United Nations?